All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into a world where size really does matter.
It does.
The world of Titans in Warhammer 40K.
Oh, yes.
We've got this awesome lore video breaking down these absolute units across all the major factions.
Oh, wow.
And trust me, you wouldn't want to run into any of these things in a dark alley.
No, you would not.
Or a well-lit alley, for that matter.
No, definitely not.
What's always struck me is how Titans aren't just,
Right.
big guns. They're like cultural icons.
They are.
Symbols of power.
Yeah.
And even reflections of a faction's philosophy.
Absolutely.
So we're going to explore what makes each faction's Titans unique, from the Imperium's walking cathedrals of steel to the Orcs' chaotic scrap heap wonders.
Love those guys.
And maybe, just maybe, we'll answer the big question. Why are Titans so important in this universe of unending war?
Good question.
To understand that, I think we got to start with the basics.
Yeah, good idea.
What is a Titan, really?
What is it?
For the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Okay.
The guys who basically worship machinery, right?
Yes.
Titans are like walking embodiments of their machine god.
Yeah, like their god.
The machine god.
Uh-huh.
For those who aren't super deep in the 40K lore, that's basically the Adeptus Mechanicus' deity. It's
Right.
kind of a fusion of technology and divinity.
Yeah, very 40K.
But even if you're not a tech priest, you can't help but be awestruck by a Titan's sheer size.
Totally agree.
We're talking about machines that make even the largest tanks look like toys.
Like little toys.
Even a small Titan,
Yeah.
like a warhound,
Warhound.
stands around 15 meters tall.
15 meters. That's
15 meters.
Yeah.
That's like a 5-story building.
It is, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that thing's weapons.
I would not want to be on the receiving end of anything in 40K, to be honest.
No, I hear ya.
But yeah, the Warhound is definitely not something you want to mess with.
And then you got the Emperor Titans.
Oh yeah, the Emperor Titans.
Which can reach over 100 meters.
Over 100 meters.
That's bigger than the Statue of Liberty.
And Lady Liberty herself, that's right.
It's mind-boggling to think about the engineering and resources needed to build and maintain something that massive.
Yeah, and you know what they say about the Imperium?
What's that?
They don't build them like they used to.
That's for sure.
So yeah, those Emperor Titans are really something special.
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
These aren't just war machines.
Right.
They're statements.
Big statements.
So speaking of statements, where did these behemoths even come from?
Well, their origins can be traced back to a period called the Age of Strife.
The Age of Strife. For our listeners who maybe aren't super familiar,
Yeah.
this was like a time of technological collapse
Uh-huh.
and just brutal conflict on Mars.
It was not a good time to be alive.
And that's saying something for Warhammer 40K,
It really is.
the early Adeptus Mechanicus,
Right.
basically like the forerunners
The ancestors.
of the tech priests we know and love today.
Love may be a strong word, but yeah.
Developed Titans as a means of survival.
Survival of the fittest, or the biggest, in this case.
So born out of necessity.
Exactly.
Kind of like how a cornered animal might lash out with surprising ferocity.
That's a good analogy.
And they proved so effective
They did.
that they helped the Mechanicus secure control of Mars.
It's all about that firepower.
From there, Titans played a pivotal role in the Great Crusade.
Oh yeah, the Great Crusade.
Which, again, for our listeners just joining us,
Right.
this was the Imperium's attempt to reunite humanity under its banner.
Ambitious project, to say the least.
It was.
Didn't quite go as planned, though.
And then, of course, there was the Horus Heresy.
Ah, yes, the heresy.
Which, again, for listeners just getting into 40K,
We got you covered.
this was basically a galaxy-wide civil war
He's a real mess.
that almost tore the Imperium apart.
Almost.
It's pretty wild to think that these massive war machines were stomping around during those events.
Oh yeah, they were front and center.
And their importance is reflected in the fact that each Titan is given a unique name
That's right.
in High Gothic.
The language of the Adeptus Mechanicus.
It's like they're christening a battleship,
Makes sense.
recognizing its individual significance.
Yeah, not just weapons, they're individuals.
Okay, so we've got the basics down.
We do.
Titans, big, powerful,
Powerful.
and with a long and storied history.
Very storied.
Now let's get into the specifics of each faction,
All right, let's do it.
starting with the Imperium.
The poster boys for Titans.
They're kind of the poster children for Titans, right?
You could definitely say that.
They're the ones you always see in the artwork in the video games.
Absolutely.
Imperial Titans are often seen as the epitome of Titan technology.
At least from the Imperium's perspective.
Well, you mentioned earlier that Titans reflect a faction's philosophy.
I did.
What does that say about the Imperium?
Well, that's an interesting question.
It is.
Because despite their grandeur and power, Imperial Titans are also paragons of flawed technology.
Okay, so it's like this weird contradiction.
A little bit, yeah.
They're these symbols of power, but they're also kind of janky.
Well, it's more like they're a reflection of the Imperium itself.
Oh, so?
Vast, imposing,
Yeah.
but also stagnant and prone to breakdowns.
So they're these grand symbols of power that are also kind of held together by duct tape and prayer.
Oh, that's one way to put it.
That's strangely fitting for the Imperium.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's kind of their whole aesthetic.
it is.
So now that we've got that out of the way,
Okay,
let's break down the different classes of Imperial Titans.
let's do it.
We'll start with the workhorse, the warlord.
Ah, the Warlord.
The classic.
I always think of it as the classic Imperial Titan.
It is, yeah.
The one you see in all the artwork
All the time.
and video games.
All the video games.
What sets it apart?
Well, it's a 33-meter-tall walking fortress.
33 meters.
Yes.
That's even bigger than the Warhound.
Way bigger, yeah.
Wow.
It's designed to operate in almost any environment.
Really?
Yeah, from the frozen wastelands to the fiery depths. The warlord can handle it all.
It's got shoulder-mounted weapons, right?
Oh, yeah. It's got shoulder-mounted weapons that can range from laser blasters to missile launchers.
Wow.
And it has incredibly thick armor and void shield generators for protection.
So basically this thing is built to take a punch.
And then some.
So if you need something to take a pounding and dish it right back.
The warlord's your go-to guy.
Absolutely.
It's the embodiment of the Imperium's doctrine of overwhelming force.
Hit them till they stop moving.
Pretty much.
Okay, but what if you need something a little more agile?
Agile.
Enter the Warhound.
Yes, the Warhound.
The Warhound.
It is a very different beast.
It is.
It's the smallest of the Imperial Titans.
Still 15 meters tall.
Yeah, still pretty big.
Yeah, still pretty big.
But it's known for its speed and maneuverability.
So it's like the Scout.
Yeah, a scout, a flanker, a hit-and-run specialist.
But there's a catch, right?
There is a catch.
Something about how they can only be deployed in pairs.
Yeah, you can only have 2 of them at a time.
Why is that?
Well, that's a direct result of a dark chapter in Imperial history.
Oh no.
During the Horus Heresy,
Right.
Chaos forces used packs of warhounds to terrorize civilian populations.
So, like, psychological warfare.
It was brutal,
Yeah.
and it left a deep scar on the Imperium psyche.
So, even though warhounds are valuable assets,
They are.
the Imperium is so afraid of repeating that mistake
They are.
that they limit their use.
It's a real shame because they're such effective weapons.
But I can see their point.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it shows how even the mightiest empires can be haunted by their past.
It really does.
It's chilling, actually.
It is.
So we've got the heavy hitter in the warlord.
Right.
We got the swift striker in the warhound. What about something in between?
In between.
Is that where the revered titan comes in?
Yes, the Reaver is all about versatility.
Huh.
It's larger than the Warhound, but smaller than the Warlord, striking a balance between firepower and maneuverability.
So it's like the Goldilocks of Imperial Titans.
It is.
Not too big, not too small.
Sure.
It can be equipped for close quarters combat
Uh-huh.
or long-range fire support.
That's right.
So it's the Swiss Army knife of the Imperial Titan arsenal.
A very apt analogy.
It's adaptable to any situation.
Exactly.
Now, if we want to talk about real heavy hitters,
Oh, yes, the big guns.
we need to move on to the War Master and the Imperator.
Now we're talking.
These are the behemoths that make even a warlord look small.
They make everything look small.
Okay, bring on the big guns.
Here they come.
What can you tell us about the War Master?
The War Master is essentially a walking artillery platform,
Okay.
standing around 40 meters tall
Wow.
and armed with enough firepower to level city blocks.
City blocks.
Plural.
So we're talking plasma destroyers, missile launchers.
Works.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
Anything you can imagine, the War Master probably has it.
And the Imperator.
The Imperator.
Or even bigger than that.
Oh, yes. The Imperator is the pinnacle of Imperial Titan technology.
Wow.
The largest and most powerful Titan in their arsenal.
Wow.
It's a walking cathedral of destruction.
Are they common?
No, not at all.
I can't imagine there are many of those walking around.
Actually, they're incredibly rare.
Really?
The Adeptus Mechanicus has lost the ability to create new Imperators.
So the ones they have are it.
That's it.
Wow.
So those that remain are relics of a bygone era.
Like museum pieces, almost.
Carefully maintained and deployed only in the most desperate situations.
Like break glass in case of emergency situations.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
They're like these ancient relics, symbols of a past glory that the Imperium desperately clings to.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad when you think about it.
It is.
But also kind of awesome.
It is.
Because it shows how much they value these machines.
It does.
Even if they can't make them anymore.
And speaking of relics, there's one more Titan we need to discuss.
Okay.
A unique and terrifying example of AI gone wrong.
AI.
Yeah.
I thought the Imperium was all about worshiping machines, not letting them think for themselves.
That's generally true.
But there are always exceptions.
Always.
And this one is a doozy.
All right, hit me with it.
We're talking about the Castigator.
The Castigator?
Yeah, this was a one-of-a-kind Titan, even larger and more powerful than an Imperator.
No way.
And it was completely autonomous.
Completely.
Controlled by a sophisticated artificial intelligence.
That's wild.
It was discovered on a lost forge world called Chironia.
Lost Forge World.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're already in spooky territory.
It gets spookier.
Lay it on me.
It had made a pact with chaos.
Chaos!
Yeah.
A pact with chaos.
The AI allowed itself to be possessed by a demon in exchange for even greater power.
A demon-possessed AI Titan?
Yep.
That's like something out of a nightmare.
It was the nightmare.
So what happened?
The Castigator went on a rampage, unleashing unimaginable destruction.
What stopped it?
It took the combined might of the Grey Knights,
The Green Knights.
the Imperium's elite demon hunters,
Those guys.
to finally bring it down.
Wow.
That's a cautionary tale if I've ever heard one.
It is.
It makes you wonder if the Imperium's fear of AI is justified.
I mean, when you see something like that,
So you gotta wonder.
it really makes you think.
It does.
The Castigator serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of uncontrolled technology.
Especially in a galaxy as dangerous as Warhammer 40K.
Before we move on to the Chaos Titans.
Okay.
And I can only imagine what those are like.
You have no idea.
You mentioned Imperial Knights earlier.
I did.
How do they fit into all of this?
Well, Imperial Knights are powerful war machines in their own right.
Uh-huh.
But they're not technically Titans.
So where do they fall in the hierarchy?
Think of them as heavy cavalry compared to the Titans' role as super heavy artillery.
So knights are like the knights in a chess game,
Yes.
while Titans are the rooks. Powerful, but less mobile.
That's a good way to put it.
They each have their role on the battlefield,
They do.
and their strengths complement each other.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
All right, so we've got a solid grasp on the Imperium's Titans,
We do.
their strengths,
Their strengths,
their weaknesses,
their weaknesses.
and the chilling story of the Castigator.
What a story.
But now, things are about to get a whole lot darker.
Oh boy.
Because we're going to dive into the twisted world of Chaos Titans.
Here we go.
And
Buckle up.
that's where things get really interesting.
Really interesting.
We're not just talking about different paint jobs here.
No.
Chaos Titans are fundamentally changed,
Fundamental.
warped by the corrupting influence of the Chaos Gods.
Warped is a good word for it.
All right, I'm ready for this.
Are you sure?
Let's unpack the horrors that await.
Let's do it. Imagine taking everything awe-inspiring about an Imperial Titan. The size, the power, the sheer presence, and twisting it into something grotesque and terrifying.
Okay.
That's what Chaos Titans are all about.
So we're not just talking about a new paint job and some spiky bits, right?
No, not at all.
These things are fundamentally different from their Imperial counterparts.
Absolutely.
It's like taking a perfectly engineered machine
Right.
and injecting it with a virus,
Uh-huh.
corrupting its very core.
Corrupting it from the inside out.
And I imagine that corruption manifests differently depending on which Chaos God a Titan has pledged allegiance to.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the Chaos Gods are all about extremes, right?
Extremes, yes.
And their influence on Titans reflects that.
For example, a Titan dedicated to corn,
Corn, the blood god.
the blood god, that's right,
Yeah.
becomes this brutally efficient killing machine,
Okay.
dripping with gore
Ugh.
and driven by an insatiable thirst for slaughter.
Oh, that's a horrifying image.
It is.
And what about Nurgle?
Nurgle, the plague god.
What does a Nurgle corrupted Titan look like?
Imagine a rotting hulk of metal and flesh,
Okay.
spewing forth disease and decay wherever it goes.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
That's not a pretty sight?
No, it doesn't sound like it.
Nurgle's Titans are less about precision strikes
Right.
and more about spreading pestilence and despair.
So more of a psychological weapon almost?
In a way, yes.
Okay, I'm starting to regret asking, but we can't forget about Slaanesh.
Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure.
And Siege?
Ah, it's the edge, the changer of ways.
Yeah, what kind of warped creations do they inspire?
Slaanesh, being the god of excess and sensation,
Right.
twists his Titans into instruments of perverse beauty and agonizing pain.
Oh, okay.
Every movement is a symphony of suffering and ecstasy.
That's just messed up.
It is. It is.
What about Siege?
Well, TTT's the master of change and unpredictability.
Right.
So his Titans are constantly shifting and warping.
Oh, that's got to be hard to fight.
It is very difficult to pin down,
Yeah.
reflecting the ever-changing nature of chaos itself.
So you never know what you're going to get.
Never know what you're going to get with Siege.
It's fascinating, in a morbid sort of way,
It is.
how each Chaos God's personality is reflected in these monstrous war machines.
It's like looking into a dark mirror.
It is, so let's get down to specifics.
Right.
We talked about the Imperial Warhound earlier.
We did.
What happens to it when Chaos gets its claws on it?
It becomes the Feral.
The Feral.
And it's so much more than just a warhound with a bad attitude.
What do you mean?
It's machine spirit.
Right.
That essence that gives a Titan its unique identity
Uh-huh.
is possessed by a demon.
Oh, wow.
It becomes this twisted, unpredictable creature driven by pure malice.
So it's not just corrupted, it's possessed.
Possessed, yeah.
That's a whole other level.
And the modifications probably don't stop there.
What else do they do to these things?
Oh, ferals are often armed with weapons modified for sheer brutality.
So they take what's already a powerful weapon and
Right.
make it even more brutal.
Their armor is adorned with spikes, chains, and all sorts of grotesque trophies.
Like they're trying to outdo each other in terms of how gruesome they can be.
It's like they're trying to embody everything the Imperium fears of chaos.
It's a statement.
It is, a very loud one.
What about the Reaver?
The Reaver.
Does it get a similar chaos makeover?
Indeed it does.
What do they call it?
The chaos equivalent of the Reaver is the Defiler.
The Defiler.
And as the name suggests,
Yeah.
it's a truly abominable creation.
Give me the details.
Imagine the Reaver's once sleek form,
Okay.
now covered in pulsating flesh and corrupted machinery.
Okay, pulsating flesh is definitely going to be stuck in my head for a while.
Sorry about that.
It's fine. It's fine. It's our job.
What kind of weapons does this Defiler pack?
Yeah, what kind of firepower are we talking about here?
Oh, it's a delightful mix of unholy firepower.
Such as?
We're talking toxic fumes, warp fire,
Warp fire. That sounds nasty.
anything that can leave a trail of devastation and corruption in its wake.
So it's not just about destroying things, it's about corrupting them.
Corrupting them, twisting them.
It's like they're trying to spread chaos wherever they go.
That's the whole point.
I can only imagine what the Chaos Warlord looks like.
Oh, the Chaos Warlord.
That thing was already pretty intimidating in its Imperial form.
It was, but the Chaos version.
Yeah.
It's a sight that can shatter armies and sanity alike.
Oh, wow.
It's a monument to the power of chaos.
I bet.
Its armor defaced with blasphemous symbols.
Uh-huh.
Its weapons capable of unleashing hellfire and demonic energies.
It's basically a daemon engine the size of a small building.
Pretty much.
You mentioned Emperor-class Chaos Titans earlier.
I did.
Those must be on a whole other level of terrifying.
Oh, they are.
What are they like?
Imagine the already immense power of an Imperator Titan,
Right.
now amplified and twisted by the will of a greater demon.
I'm a greater demon.
These are living embodiments of chaos, capable of shattering reality with their unholy might.
Do any particular examples come to mind?
One that stands out is the Abominatron.
The Abominatron, okay.
It's what happens when you fuse an Emperor Titan with a Soul Grinder,
A soul grinder.
another monstrous chaos war machine.
Okay, I need a moment to process that.
Take your time.
A Titan combined with a soul grinder.
It's as bad as it sounds.
That sounds like something out of a fever dream.
It's a testament to the utter depravity of chaos.
I'll say.
It's a walking nightmare,
Yeah.
a fusion of flesh, metal, and demonic energy that defies all reason and sanity.
All right, I think we need a change of pace after that.
You cheat your base.
Something a bit less nightmarish.
Less nightmares.
Maybe a bit more. Well, maybe not cleaner, but at least different.
Different.
Yeah, something different.
Ah, you must be thinking about the orcs and their wonderfully crude creations.
The Borgarka.
Or Gargant. They're a far cry from the structured technological approach of the Imperium and Chaos, aren't they?
That's putting it mildly.
So what are they all about? Orc Gargant. are a testament to the orc of unique blend of brutal simplicity and surprising effectiveness.
Okay.
They're not as technologically sophisticated as Imperial or Chaos Titans,
Right.
but they make up for it with sheer size, overwhelming firepower, and a healthy dose of orky enthusiasm.
So it's a quantity over quality approach.
You could say that.
They just throw everything they have at a problem.
And somehow it works.
It sounds chaotic?
Oh, it absolutely is.
That's the orcs in a nutshell, right?
It's the orcs.
Their technology is as unpredictable as they are.
It is very unpredictable.
But it somehow works.
It does, often to the detriment of their enemies.
Yeah, not always to their own benefit.
Not always, no.
But hey, that's the orcs for you.
That's the orcs.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Good.
Let's break down the different types of gargant.
Okay.
What's the smallest one called?
The smallest, and I use that term loosely,
Yeah.
is the stumpa.
The stompa. Oh.
Think of it as the orc equivalent of an imperial knight. A massive war machine, bristling with crude but effective weapons.
So it's like a walking gun platform.
Pretty much.
And what about the standard gargant?
The standard
What sets it apart from the stompa?
The standard gargant is a sight to behold.
In what way?
It's a hulking mass of metal, bristling with guns, adorned with all sorts of orc glyphs, trophies, and whatever else they could bolt on.
It sounds like a giant walking scrap heap that somehow manages to function.
That's a surprisingly accurate description.
But don't let their crude appearance fool you.
No, don't let it fool you.
They're incredibly dangerous.
They are very dangerous.
And then there's the mega gargant.
The mega gargant.
And the biggest of the bunch.
The biggest and the baddest.
The one that makes even an emperor titan nervous.
It makes everyone nervous.
What can you tell us about it?
It's a true monster, a walking testament to the orc's love for all things big and loud.
Sounds about right.
It's armed with an array of ridiculously oversized weapons that can obliterate entire armies.
Do we have any idea how large they can get?
During the War of the Beast,
War of the Beast.
a massive orc invasion that nearly brought the Imperium to its knees,
Oh, wow.
the orcs deployed a mega gargant that stood over 14 kilometers tall.
14 kilometers?
Kilometers.
That's taller than Mount Everest.
It was a sight to behold, I assure you.
How is that even possible?
Orcs have a way of defying logic and physics.
It's true.
They believe in something hard enough,
Uh-huh.
and it just happens.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that makes them so dangerous.
And so fascinating.
It is, it is.
Okay, I'm starting to understand why the Imperium has such a hard time with these guys.
They're a tough nut to crack.
Speaking of crews, how do Orc Gargant compare to Imperial and Chaos Titans in terms of manpower?
Well, let's just say that organized isn't a word you'd use to describe an orc gargant's crew.
So it's not like the Imperium where you have specific roles and ranks.
No.
It's more of a free-for-all.
They're manned by massive mobs of orcs and Gretchen. Their smaller, more subservient counterparts.
Right.
It's a chaotic and often violent affair,
I bet.
with orcs constantly fighting amongst themselves for control of the various weapons and systems.
So it's less of a well-oiled machine and more of a mob of orcs crammed into a giant walking scrap heap.
That's a very colorful way of putting it.
It's amazing those things even function.
It is. But somehow they do.
And that's what makes them so dangerous.
They're unpredictable,
Uh-huh.
chaotic,
Yeah.
and utterly relentless.
You never know what to expect from an Orc Gargant,
Never know what to expect.
which makes them incredibly difficult to fight.
Very difficult to fight.
All right, we've explored the walking fortresses of the Imperium,
We have.
the demonically infused nightmares of chaos,
Those were fun.
and the chaotic scrap heap wonders of the orcs.
Always a good time with the orcs.
But there's one more faction we need to talk about.
You must be referring to the Eldar and their elegant psychic war machines.
Exactly.
The Eldar Titans.
I'm really excited to dive into these because they seem so different from everything we've talked about so far.
They are very different.
So what sets them apart?
Well, while the Imperium and Chaos favor brute force and overwhelming firepower,
Right.
and the orcs rely on crude but surprisingly effective technology,
Uh-huh.
the Eldar take a much more refined and elegant approach.
Okay.
Their titans are sleek and agile, blending advanced technology with potent psychic abilities.
So they're more like graceful dancers than lumbering behemoths.
That's a very apt description.
I remember reading something about their armor being quite thin, though.
It is, yes.
Wouldn't that make them vulnerable to enemy fire?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
I would.
But the Eldar have a trick up their sleeve.
Okay, what is it?
Instead of relying on thick armor plating like Imperial or Chaos Titans.
Right.
They employ advanced holographic fields for protection.
Holographic field.
Holographic fields.
So they're basically using technology to make themselves invisible.
Not quite invisible, but incredibly difficult to target.
Still pretty cool.
These fields can distort their appearance and deflect incoming fire.
So they're like phantoms on the battlefield.
Phantoms, exactly.
That's incredible.
It is very advanced technology.
It's like they've taken the concept of stealth technology and applied it to giant war machines.
Precisely.
That's so Eldar.
The Eldar understand that offense is often the best defense.
Makes sense.
By being difficult to hit
Uh-huh.
and striking with surgical precision,
Okay.
they could disable their enemies before they can bring their heavier weapons to bear.
It's a completely different philosophy from the Imperium's hit them until they stop moving approach.
Very different.
Much more subtle.
The Eldar are a dying race,
They are, yeah.
clinging to survival in a galaxy that seems determined to wipe them out.
Yeah, it's rough out there for them.
They can't afford to waste resources on brute force tactics.
Right.
They have to be smarter,
Okay.
more cunning,
Yeah.
more efficient.
So it's like a necessity for them.
It is a matter of survival.
And that brings us to their power source. I've heard Eldar technology is closely tied to psychic energy.
You've heard correctly.
What can you tell us about that?
Eldar Titans are powered by something truly unique.
What is it?
The spirits of deceased Eldar warriors,
Spirits.
contained within a core of Wraithbone.
Wait, hold on. Did you say spirits?
Spirits, yes.
As in ghosts.
In a way, yes.
Okay, now this is getting interesting.
The Eldar have a very different relationship with death than most other races.
How so?
They see it as a transition, not an end.
Okay.
And their technology reflects that belief.
So they're essentially harnessing the souls of their dead to power their war machines.
In essence, yeah.
That's both fascinating and a little bit creepy.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Eldar walk a fine line between life and death,
Uh-huh.
technology and spirituality.
It's what makes them so unique
It is.
and so dangerous.
But it also speaks to their desperation.
Oh, so?
They are a dwindling people fighting against extinction. And they are willing to use every tool at their disposal, even the souls of their ancestors, to survive.
It's a matter of survival.
It is.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into the specifics of Eldar Titan classes.
All right, let's do it.
Let's start with the smallest one.
The smallest.
What's it called?
The smallest Eldar Titan is the Revenant Titan.
Revenant Titan, okay.
It's roughly comparable in size to the Imperial Warhound,
Okay.
but much faster and more agile.
Thanks in part to those holographic fields we talked about.
Exactly.
So it's a hit-and-run specialist like the Warhound, but with an added layer of Eldar elegance and finesse.
Precisely.
What kind of firepower are we talking about here?
The Revenant's primary weapons are a pair of pulsar cannons.
Pulsar cannons.
Incredibly powerful energy weapons capable of slicing through even the toughest armor.
And those are just the primary weapons.
It also carries missile launchers and other secondary weapons, making it a versatile and deadly opponent.
It sounds like a nightmare to fight against.
It is a nightmare.
One minute it's there, the next it's gone, and then suddenly you've got a gaping hole in your tank.
That's the Eldar way of war.
Strike from the shadows, hit hard, and vanish before the enemy can retaliate.
Exactly.
All right, moving up the scale.
Moving up the scale.
We have the Wraith Lord Titan.
The Wraith Lord.
That's its story.
The Wraith Lord is a fascinating creation.
How so?
It's larger than the Revenant,
Mm-hmm.
but still smaller than the Imperial Warlord.
Okay.
It has a very distinctive look.
What's it look like?
A large domed head and long, slender limbs.
Interesting.
But what makes it truly unique is its connection to the spirit stones within its Wraithbone core.
Connection.
What do you mean by connection? The Wraith Lord's pilot forms a deep psychic bond with the collective consciousness of the spirit stones,
The collective consciousness.
essentially merging with the spirits of the fallen Eldar warriors that power the Titan.
So it's not just a pilot controlling a machine.
No, it's much more than that.
It's more like a merging of minds and spirits. And this bond gives the Wraith Lord incredible power and agility.
It does.
It can react with lightning speed, unleashing devastating attacks with a precision that borders on precognition.
It's like they can see the future.
So it's like the pilot can tap into the combat experience of all those fallen warriors?
In a way, yes.
That's incredible.
It's a testament to the Eldar's mastery of psychic energy and their unique relationship with death.
Okay, now for the really big guns.
The really big guns.
What can you tell us about the Wraith Knight?
The Wraith Knight is one of the largest Eldar Titans.
One of the largest.
Rivalry even the Imperial Warlord in size.
Wow. Okay.
What sets it apart is its unique piloting system.
Unique how?
The Wraith Knight is piloted by twins or triplets whose psychic bond amplifies the Titan's abilities.
Twins or triplets?
The pilots essentially become one with the Titan.
One with the machine.
Their thoughts and actions seamlessly translated into movement and firepower.
So it's like a 3-person hive mind controlling a giant war machine.
That's a good way to put it.
And the Wraith Knight's power is directly proportional to the strength of the psychic bond between its pilots.
The closer the bond,
Uh-huh.
the more devastating the Titan becomes.
And I'm guessing that since we're talking about the Eldar,
Yeah,
these pilots aren't just randomly selected triplets, right?
you're right.
They put a lot of thought into this.
The Eldar take their piloting very seriously, especially when it comes to something as powerful as a Wraith Knight.
So what's the process like?
The pilots are carefully chosen,
Oh, okay.
offered from birth,
From birth.
and trained rigorously to develop their psychic bond and their combat skills.
So it's not just about raw power.
Hmm.
It's about precision, coordination, and that deep connection that the Eldar have with their technology and their psychic abilities.
Exactly.
The Wraith Knight is a testament to the Eldar's ability to blend technology and psychic power into a truly formidable weapon.
A very formidable weapon.
Okay, now for the big one.
The big one.
The one I've been waiting to hear about.
I know you have.
The Phantom Titan.
Ah, the Phantom Titan.
What can you tell us about this shadowy beast?
The Phantom Titan is the most powerful and rarest of all Eldar Titans,
Really?
reserved for only the most critical battles.
So it's like their ace in the hole.
It's shrouded in mystery and legend,
Even amongst the Eldar themselves.
even amongst the Eldar.
Wow.
What makes it so special?
That makes it so special.
It's said to be powered by the spirit of a particularly powerful deceased Eldar warrior,
Okay.
often a Farseer.
A farce.
They hit the most gifted psychers.
Right.
This imbues the Titan with immense psychic power,
Immense psychic power.
far exceeding that of any other Eldar Titan.
So it's like a walking psychic bomb.
In a way, yes.
What can it do?
The Phantom Titan can unleash devastating psychic attacks,
Oh, I bet.
capable of shattering minds and warping reality itself.
So it's not just about physical damage.
Oh.
It can mess with your mind.
It can mess with your mind, it can mess with reality.
That's terrifying.
It's a weapon of last resort.
Yeah.
A testament to the Eldar's desperation in the face of overwhelming odds.
And there's a specific variant, isn't there?
There is
The Warlock.
the Warlock. Yeah.
What makes it different from the standard Phantom Titan?
The Warlock variant is piloted by the spirit of a deceased Farseer,
Okay.
whose psychic powers are amplified by the Titan's Wraithbone core.
So it's even more powerful than the regular Phantom Titan.
Much more powerful.
And what can it do?
It's capable of manipulating the flow of time and fate,
Time and fate.
making it a truly unpredictable and dangerous opponent.
It sounds like fighting one would be an absolute nightmare.
It would be a nightmare.
You wouldn't even know it hit you.
You wouldn't know it hit you.
1 minute you're there, the next you're reliving your worst childhood memory.
Or suddenly you're an old man.
Or who knows what else this thing can do.
The possibilities are endless.
The Warlock is a force of nature,
It is.
a manifestation of the Eldar's deepest fears and most potent psychic abilities.
It's a reminder that even in the grim darkness of the 40K universe, there are forces that defy comprehension and logic.
Well, after exploring the psychic might of the Eldar Titans, I'm almost afraid to ask what else is out there.
What else is out there?
We've covered the Imperium,
We have.
Chaos,
Yes.
the Orcs,
The Orcs.
and the Eldar.
The Eldar.
Are there any other factions that field these massive war machines?
Actually, there is one more faction that we haven't discussed,
Really?
and their Titans are unlike anything we've seen so far.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
They're not made of steel,
Okay.
they're not possessed by demons,
All right.
and they're not powered by the souls of the dead.
So what are they made of then?
Flesh and bone.
Flesh and bone.
We're talking about the Bio-Titans of the Tyranids.
The Tyranids.
The Tyranids.
I almost forgot about them.
It's easy to forget about them when you're talking about all these other factions.
I guess with all that metal and machinery,
Yeah.
the idea of a biological titan is almost too alien to comprehend.
It is alien.
It is. Bio-titans.
Bio-Titans.
Okay, that's a whole new level of terrifying.
It-
We've talked about walking cathedrals of steel,
Right.
demon-infused nightmares, and even scrap heap wonders.
There's something else.
But flesh and bone.
Flesh and bone.
That just feels wrong.
It's a little unsettling.
It's very unsettling.
But it makes perfect sense when you consider the nature of the Tyranids.
The Tyranids' fright.
They're an extragalactic swarm driven by an insatiable hunger to consume all biomass.
All biomass.
Everything.
Like a plague of locusts.
Yeah, but on a galactic scale.
They're like a force of nature.
They are.
Constantly adapting and evolving to overcome any obstacle.
That's what they do.
So they saw Titans as a threat.
Yeah.
Decided, hey, let's just grow our own.
Pretty much.
That's so Tyranid.
The Tyranid hive mind.
Right.
That collective consciousness that guides the swarm.
Uh-huh.
Recognized the strategic value of Titans.
Okay.
And incorporated them into their evolutionary path.
So they just adapted to the threat.
That's the Tyranid way.
The result is a chilling array of biotitans. Each one a monstrous fusion of organic matter and weaponized evolution. Okay, I'm officially creeped out.
It's a little creepy.
It's very creepy.
Do they have different classes like the other factions?
Yeah, or are they just a bunch of random flesh monster titans running around?
They do have classifications.
Okay.
But they're less rigid than those of the Imperium or Eldar.
How come?
The Tyranids are all about adaptation.
Right.
So their bioforms are constantly evolving and changing,
It's hard to keep up.
making it difficult to categorize them definitively.
So no neat little charts and diagrams for Tyranid biotitans.
Not really.
It's like trying to nail jelly to a wall.
It's like trying to classify a constantly shifting cloud.
But that's part of what makes them so dangerous.
It is very dangerous.
They're unpredictable, adaptable, and utterly relentless.
You can't stop them. You can only hope to slow them down.
All right, let's not get bogged down in trying to pin down a constantly evolving enemy.
Good idea.
What are the key things that set Tyranid biotitans apart from their mechanical counterparts?
One of the most significant differences is their resilience.
Resilience.
Imagine a war machine that can regenerate from even the most horrific wounds.
Okay.
Its flesh knitting itself back together in a matter of moments.
Oh, that's just wrong.
It's a little disturbing.
It's very disturbing.
I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff in the Warhammer 40K universe, but a self-healing Titan?
Yeah.
That's nightmare fuel right there.
It is.
It is a truly unsettling sight to behold.
I bet.
And it makes them incredibly difficult to kill.
So how do you even fight something like that?
That's the question, isn't it?
If firepower isn't the answer, what is?
They lack the vulnerabilities of mechanical Titans.
In what way?
There are no critical systems to target,
Okay.
no reactors to overload,
Uh-huh.
no engines to cripple.
So you can't just blow up their weak points.
You can blast them apart. They just keep coming back for more.
So it's like fighting a zombie horde,
It's like fighting a horror movie,
but on a much larger scale.
much larger.
Well, that's a cheery thought.
It is, isn't it?
On that note,
Yes.
I think we've covered just about every type of Titan you could encounter in the Warhammer 40K universe.
We've covered a lot of ground.
From the Imperium steel behemoths to the Tyranids bio-horrors.
It's been a journey.
It's been an eye-opening
Eye-opening.
and slightly terrifying journey.
Slightly terrifying.
It has.
But it all comes back to that central question.
What's that?
Why are Titans so important in this universe of endless war?
It's a good question.
It is.
We've seen how flawed they can be.
We have.
They break down. They get possessed by demons.
Yeah,
They're even built out of flesh and teeth in some cases.
that's right.
So why are they so central to the conflicts of Warhammer 40K?
I think it goes beyond their strategic value.
Beyond strategy.
They're symbols of power,
Symbols.
embodiments of a faction's ideals.
So they represent something more than just their firepower?
The Imperium sees them as holy engines of war,
Okay.
extensions of the machine god's will.
Makes sense.
The Chaos gods use them to spread terror and corruption.
Right.
The Orcs see them as the biggest, loudest toys on the battlefield.
Because of course they do.
And the Eldar, facing extinction, view them as a desperate final defense.
So each faction sees them in a different light,
They do.
but they all see them as important.
Absolutely.
It's almost like Titans represent something primal,
Like
something deeper than just military strategy.
I think you're right.
It's about fear, awe, and the desire for dominance on a colossal scale.
It's about making a statement.
A very big statement.
Perhaps that's why we find them so fascinating.
Maybe.
They're a reflection of our own fears and ambition,
Our own fears and ambition.
magnified to a terrifying and exhilarating degree.
Well, folks, there you have it.
That's it.
A deep dive into the world of Titans in all their terrifying glory.
We've seen it all.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey and maybe even learned a thing or two about these awe-inspiring and often unsettling war machines.
I hope so.
But before you go,
Yeah.
we'd like to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
A final thought.
We've seen how Titans can be both powerful and destructive,
Powerful and destructive.
symbols of both strength and desperation.
A double-edged sword.
So the question remains, is their continued use ultimately a testament to a faction's might or a sign of their impending downfall?
It's a good question.
We'll leave that for you to decide.
Think about it.
Until next time.
Until next time.
May your knowledge be as vast as the Imperium and your courage as unwavering as a space marine.